أطيروا أفواكم محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين المنتجبين، ذكرهم طيبوا أفواهكم الصلوات عليهم أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum everyone wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this night of Jum'ah a blessed night, and inshallah may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted your azah for during the months of Muharram and Safar, and that He will not make it our last season for azah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and if it is, then inshallah He resurrect us with Muhammad and Ali Muhammad salawatullahi alayhim ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. عفوا دكتور لو سمحتم هاي لو طلعوا من الفريز لو سمحت على الفريز، الشاشة على الفريز، نطلع على الفريز. Inshallah, tonight we are going to finish the, I don't want to call it tafsir, but a little description of Surah Al-Hujurat. We said that this surah is considered to be Surah Al-Adab. It's the chapter of manners and etiquettes. Okay, so last time, still on freeze? Yeah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإن طائفتان من المؤمنين اقتتلوا فأصلحوا بينهما فإن بغت إحداهما على الأخرى فقاتلوا التي تبغي حتى تفيء إلى أمر الله فإن فاءت فأصلحوا بينهما بالعدل وأقسطوا إن الله يحب المقسطين. And if two factions among the believers should fight, then make settlement between the two, but if one of them oppresses the other, then fight against the one that oppresses until it returns to the ordinance of Allah. And if it returns, then make settlement between them in justice and act justly. Indeed, Allah loves those who act justly. So we mentioned last time that when there's a dispute, when there's a fight between two groups of believers, okay, we can't just say that we don't care, it's not about us, okay, it's about others. And so, because من أصبح ولم يهتم بأمور المسلمين فليس بمسلم, right? من سمع المسلم ينادي يا للمسلمين ولم يجبه فليس مسلم. So this is our duty, our responsibility, that we take actions. And we have to stand with the person or with the group that were oppressed. Okay, that's something that is an obligatory as one of the rights that we have toward each other. So it's not a choice that since it doesn't kind of affect me directly, so I wouldn't care. No, definitely there is no such a thing in the vocabulary of a believer. Of course, we have to stand always with those who are oppressed and with the haqq, with the right. And now we mentioned that how come that two groups of believers, they fight? Is it possible? Both are believers. How come? We said that in fact, Iman doesn't follow the kind of the binary logic, like 0 and 1, either there's a believer or disbeliever. No. The Iman comes in different levels, right? And in fact, this is our let's say, philosophy of being in this life is to try to perfect our iman, to perfect our belief, right? And in order to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this beautiful journey takes place, in fact, through improving our iman, okay? So yes, sometimes we get deceived, we get fooled by the shaitan, okay? And we have the ahwa an-nafsi, right? We have these desires that sometimes we try to get more than what we deserve, right? We don't feel satisfied with what we have, so we start oppressing. And this can take place at any level, okay? It could be it could be within our house, okay? For example, between a couple, between parents and the kids, and so on, siblings, and then can make this circle bigger and bigger until it gets to the entire, let's say, society, or between two countries even, right? So when two Muslim countries start fighting, again, we can't just watch what's happening. So we don't care, since I don't belong to each of these countries, so I'm safe, so I wouldn't mind if, for example, the fire gonna burn the neighbors, as long as my house is safe. Definitely this is not accepted within the perspective of Islam. Yeah? So it is possible, and if it happened, because we said that the iman is not perfect for me. Now, imagine that if all the prophets, the 124,000 prophets, okay, were to live in the same place, in the same city, would there gonna be any kind of fight or argument? Definitely not, because their iman is all at the perfect level. So the problem is, because of the deficiencies and the shortcomings that exist in our iman, this is what kind of makes that these kind of, let's say, disputes, okay, or fights or enmities between the individuals within an imanic community. So we mentioned also, again, so I'm making a little of a review. This is apparently the battery. It's not moving. If you can move it manual, please. Thank you. Yeah, so we understand from this ayah, okay, we have to apply it, of course, to our life, and then we can't just be an observer and watch what's happening. We have to step in, right? As Imam Ali salam in his last wasiyah, right, when he was like advising Hasanain alayhi salam and said, وَمَنْ بَلَغَهُ كِتَابِ هَذَا أَنْ كُنَا لِلظَّالِمِ خَصْمًا وَلِلْمَظْلُومِ عَوْنًا. Among the very last advices that Imam gave, okay, before his departure to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, oh Hassan and Hussein, everyone who gonna, in fact, gonna hear this wasiyah, okay, this advice from me, that kuna al-zalimi khasman, be an enemy to the person or the group that is oppressor, wa kuna lil-mazlumi awnan, and be helper to those who are oppressed. And we mentioned that these, in fact, enmities, usually they are rooted in, or dissensions that are because of the imperfection and deficiency and the shortcomings that the believers may have in their iman, the level of iman, right? And usually they are, in fact, again, if we dig deep, we're going to see they are rooted in three major spiritual diseases, okay, which are arrogance, envy, and greed. Now, if you think about the very first sin that took place, what was it? when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the angels, okay, and Iblis to prostrate before Adam alayhi salam, right? And Iblis refused. He said, no, because خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. You created me from fire, but you created Adam from clay, and fire has a higher status, right? So the very first sin is kibr, right? Arrogance. And then, so نازع الله في كبرياء سلطانه, right? He said, me, before Allah, imagine, okay? So the second, in fact, sin that took place is when Adam alayhi salam was commanded to be careful from shaitan, okay? But shaitan came and fooled him. يا آدم هل أدلك على شجرة الخلد وملك لا يبلى. So that's because of, so he had a kind of a greed, okay? That, so he wanted to get all this like ملك لا يبلى and will never end, okay? And شجرة الخلد to be eternally there. So that's the second sin that took place, or second, let's say, mistake. Now we have to be a little careful about saying sin. And then the third one, in fact, is what the fight that happened between Qabil and Habil, right? So you know the story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them to give a sacrifice, and then the one from Habil was accepted, but one from Qabil was not accepted. Again, you know the reason, okay? Because of the sincerity that Habil alayhi salam had, but Qabil didn't have, right? He chose a sick sheep, and you know a thin one and a sick one, and then that's what was not accepted. So this created hasad, jealousy, or envy. Okay, that's the third one, which caused Qabil to kill his brother. Yeah, these are things. So these are what a believer has to, in fact, always keep an eye and make sure that we perform a cleansing, okay, spiritual cleansing, tathir, for these spiritual diseases: arrogance, envy, greed. When you look at the sins, most of the sins are rooted and originated in these three, in fact, diseases, okay? Which, in the bigger scale, it can cause wars and killings and murdering and so on between individuals or families or tribes or countries, okay? So, now we continue, so the surah continues. إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. The believers are but brothers, so make settlement between your brothers. So the reason that we can't just be a watcher to what's happening when there's a war or a dispute, because the Imanic, in fact, community is supposed to be connected with the strongest bond of brotherhoods. Okay, this is the strongest relationship that can exist. If we look at the traditions about, we might take it simple, but really like the brotherhood, ukhuwah, is something really very deep and noble in the hadith, in the traditions that we have from Prophet and his progeny, peace be upon them. It shows really like, it's hard to imagine like the amount of rights that each of brothers have on their on other believers. Okay, so this is really something that we have to take into consideration. Okay, so because the mu'mineen, they have this strong bonds of being brothers, so we have to always make settlement and peace when there's a dispute between them, when there's an enmity. Okay, wattaqullah, in order, in fact, to get to the taqwa, to the piety, to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact, is to always set settlement and peace between brothers. So we can't achieve taqwa without striving and doing our best in order to set settlement whenever there is a dispute. As I said, this is something generic. It could be between a couple, between a family member, especially it even gets more higher priority. Okay, إصلاح ذات البين. This is again a big title in the Quran. Okay, and خير من عامة الصلاة والصوم. Right, this is, and so on. واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. And now, we said the concept of brotherhood, in fact, can be looked at from different angles. Okay, first of all, similarity, right? So when you look at, for example, us as we look like the same. We have the same feelings. We have the same kind of emotions. We have the same role, in fact, in the life, okay? All of us, we love good things. And so there is a similarity. This is, in fact, the very first step that makes the bond or relationship between the community members to be brothers, okay? Because of the similarity that we have. The other thing is the equity, okay? المساواة, right? Again, in the concept of, or in fact, in the philosophy of Islam, that all mu'mineen, all believers, okay, they are equal. كأسنان المشط, right? Like the brush of the hair, right? They're all the same. So equity, and finally the bonds and obligation. When it comes to our role of وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. So all of our roles as well is to have this beautiful journey toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to seek proximity to Him Jalla wa ala, right? So we have the same role. We all share the same, in fact, objectives and targets. And this is, again, what makes the ukhuwah between all believers, right? That this is what should govern, in fact, the relationship between all of us. Now, in the following ayat, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions 6 major threats to this ukhuwah, to the brotherhood bonds and relationship, okay? Which we need to always be careful, okay? I need to watch my actions, my behavior, my words, okay? Not to fall in one of these 6 major threats that can jeopardize, in fact, the brotherhood between the members of the Imanic community. The first one, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. Remember, this surah, this chapter, Surah Al-Adab, the chapter of manners. Imagine, really, if we apply this in our life, we're going to turn the life into paradise, okay? Because we're going to omit all these enmities and disputes. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون. Or you who have believed, let not a people ridicule another people. Perhaps they may be better than them, or nor let women ridicule each like other women. Perhaps they may be better than them, and do not insult one another, and do not call each other by offensive nicknames. Wretched is the name of disobedience after one's faith, and whoever does not repent, then it is those who are the wrongdoers. So here, the first one is yaskhar, ridiculing or mocking, right? So that's the first, in fact, threat to the brotherhood relationship between believers, right? When you mock someone, imagine what's going to happen to this person who was mocked, right? And so that's the first thing, okay? Perhaps why the philosophy? Because they might be better than them, right? Who knows? Only Allah subhanahu knows, like, who is closer to Him, right? There's a beautiful hadith that that is narrated that said, أخفى الله تعالى ثلاثة في ثلاثة. Allah has concealed 3 things in 3 things. First of all is أخفى رضاه في طاعته, right? His pleasure was concealed in His obedience. So we don't know for example, which type of worship, which type of ritual is going to make us closer to Allah subhanahu. So we should not underestimate anything. Say, oh, this is, for example, a mustahab salah. Who cares? Not that important. No, probably the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been placed in this one. Okay? So أخفى رضاه في طاعته وأخفى سخطه في معصيته. Okay? On the other side, He has concealed His displeasure, okay, in His disobedience. So again, you don't say this is a small sin, okay, so I can do it. Who cares? No, this might be the cause of Allah not being pleased with us. Okay, so none of the sins, even if they are small, in fact, there is no sins called small, because when you look at who is being, in fact, obeyed, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So to be bold enough to disobey Allah, that's by itself is kabira, right? So we can't say this is small things. Like, probably no, because Allah has concealed His unpleasure with one of these persons. وأخفى أولياءه في عباده. This is very, in fact, frightening. Okay, sometimes some people, they might look, I don't know, in the let's say socially, they don't belong to the higher class of the society, right? They might be poor, they might be even sick, okay? And so we look at them, like probably, this person, okay, we might think that this is really doesn't have that status. No, this person might be wali of awliya Allah. Why? Because أخفى عباده أخفى أولياءه في عباده. We don't know. So we have to always observe, like we have always to apply full respect, okay? And we have to really always, consider them as people that might be awliya Allah, okay? We don't know because we can't really judge people based on their appearance or, for example, if they are not wealthy or not healthy and so on, right? Because the awliya Allah, they are concealed in their in His servants. Okay, so there is no room for mocking. There is no room for ridiculing people. Okay, it's not because I'm rich I'm going to ridicule those who are, for example, poor, or because, for example, I look handsome. For example, I'm not, but I'm saying, okay. So then, so no. This is, we have to to watch this. Okay, and try to stick to this teaching from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is number one. And also nisa'un min nisa. Sometimes this happens between ladies. So there's, because ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, in fact, it addresses all believers, including male and female. But here sometimes to kind of emphasize, okay, sometimes that might happen in the gathering of ladies, okay? Okay, how the people look like and so on. So that's why the ayah says وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاء. So because that's kind of to emphasize this. عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُنَّ خَيْرًا وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُم. So the second one, first one was mocking. The second, وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُم. And do not insult, in fact, one another. Okay? And so تَلْمِزُوا وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. We have the Surah Humazah, right? It means that do not look for their blemishes, for their defects, for their shortcomings. عيوب يعني. Don't look for their عيوب, okay? رحم الله امرئ شغله عيبه عن عيوب الناس. Okay? We have to focus on our shortcomings, on our blemishes, right? Now, on our defects, because definitely I'm full of defects. How come I let myself look and try to figure out what are the defects, okay, for others? Yeah? That's again the second and very serious spiritual disease that we have to be careful. Okay, always have to focus on myself. Okay, and assume that others are better than me. That's always the case. Okay, we have to always think that others are definitely better than me. Okay, that's the second, in fact. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Now, why does it says أنفسكم here? Because it could have like a couple of meanings. Could be, now it's rarely someone would tell his defects, right? So it might look, why is it أنفسكم? Because here it could be أنفسكم means your brothers. So you see how strong this bond is, right? And for example, when we have in ayat al-mubahala, وأنفسنا وأنفسكم. Of course, you don't call yourself, okay? Means like we know that narration that Imam Ali alayhi salam was called the Nafsun Nabi, right? So when the relationship is so close, Quran calls it Anfusana, right? Means that it's like ourselves. So here Anfusakum means since the brotherhood is so strong between the members of the believers, so I call it Anfusakum. So if I insult someone, it's like I have insulted myself. You understand this? So if we really look at it from this perspective, I would never let myself insult someone, or let's say count, or let's say mention their shortcomings, because it's like mentioning my shortcomings. You understand? So this is really, if we look at it from this perspective, then most of these enmity is going to be eliminated, right? So وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. By the way, there are the couple of we have humaza and lumaza, right? Sometimes ويل لكل همزة له. همزة means that you do it, if I'm not mistaken. همزة means you say something to mention the عيب, right? To mention the defects. And لمزة, sometimes you do a movement, like a facial movement or something, okay? You know, with an eye blink or something to mock someone, okay? Without saying anything. But the way that you do it, in like you move your body or your face, like your face or something, okay? Again, it's clearly that you are mocking someone, okay? Or trying to mention their defects. Yeah, this is همز and لمز, okay? So the third one, ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بقى. These nicknames, okay? They used in Arab al-Jahiliyyah, they used to give, you know, a lot of these funny names, but it's kind of disrespectful, okay? And they would just let it go. But no. Islam says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ بِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ بَعْدَ. No, after you are believers now, okay, you are not allowed to this. You always have to observe all respect, okay, toward each member of the community. Again, imagine the implications of that. If you really apply this, again, much of these oppression, that kind of oppression, ظلم, right? This is the worst thing. They're going to be, again, eliminated. Yeah, because of this. So always we have, you know, the kunya, right? It's this mustahab that when the baby is born, you give him a kunya, right? Aba Muhammad, for example, Aba Ali, and so on. So because this is beautiful. This is in fact shows a respect and to dignify, okay, to in fact increase the dignity of the person, even if they are little kids. So بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون. So 3 diseases, 3 threats was mentioned here, right? That can, as I said, jeopardize this brotherhood relationship and bonds between women. Okay, then the surah continues. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم. 3 more, in fact, threats are mentioned here. Or you who have believed, avoid much negative assumptions. Indeed, some assumption is sin. And do not spy or backbite each other. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of his brother when dead? You would detest it. And fear Allah, indeed Allah is accepting of repentance and is merciful. Okay? When you look through many of, again, the arguments and the fights that take place, okay? You see the reason behind it was because of su'u dhan. Yeah? You had su'u dhan. Yeah? You know, you made a negative assumption. For example, someone tells you that this person said this, okay? Or you're passing by, you said salam to someone, he did not reply. So your brain again starts, oh, this is probably, you know, he did it on purpose and whatever. Probably you just didn't notice, okay? So don't make this, again, in the imani community, okay? Try to, احمل أخاك على 70 محملا, okay? So you went to their house, they said, oh, we are sorry, we can't accept you, we're not ready to host you now. Okay, again, don't make sure that he doesn't like me or whatever, yeah, and so on. Because this could be, in fact, the first step toward many sins, right? So from the first place, you know, this is the approach in Islam. Al-wiqayatu khayrun min al-ilaj. So in the first place, you try to close the door, okay, like in front of the shaitan. So no, probably he has. So always try to attach a positive cause, reason for what it looks to be something negative, okay? So, of course, sometimes no, okay? Yeah. I mean, if you know someone, for example, who is a thief, and you see that he's climbing the wall, so don't think that he's trying to open the door for the wall. No, okay? It doesn't mean that you have to be naive. No, okay? So, mu'min is, you know, is not naive, is smart. Al-mu'min fatan, but at the same time, you know, eliminates most of these su'u dhan. That's why I say, إِنَّ بَعْضَ الظَّنِّ إِثْمٌ. Okay, اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. Sometimes, especially for those who have a history of offending, for example, the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to be careful. Okay? So that's not, you're not going to be placed in this category. إن بعض الظن إثم. So, ولا تجسسوا. That's another thing. Do not spy on each other. Yeah? Now, again, I think I have mentioned this before. We have تحسسوا, right? And تجسسوا. This is the strength of Arabic. You just remove a dot, right? And then completely the meaning changes. We have in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, يا بني اذهبوا فتحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه, right? So تحسس or تجسس, they share kind of a meaning, which when you do something kind of in a hidden way, okay? So, but تحسس is when you do it for a good intention, right? So they were looking for Yusuf. تحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه, right? So try, but without kind of, grabbing attention from others. Okay, do it in a kind, because this is important. Sometimes you will not be able to achieve your goal without doing it in a kind of a concealed way, right? Kind of a hidden way. But tajassus, again, you do something kind of hidden, but with a bad intention, right? That's the difference. ولا تجسسوا. Yeah. Again, because when you do tajassus, what is the intention? I want to again find the defects of this person. Okay, so this guy was walking through this, for example, street. Okay, and I know there is a bar there. Okay, so probably he is going to the bar. Okay, no, who knows? Why do you give yourself the authority to again try to look for the defect of other? Okay. So no, that's not accepted. The justice or what's going on in their house. Okay, you are not allowed. Even if they are sinning, for example, somebody, God forbid, might drink in his house. As long as his house, you don't have the authority to spy on them, right? So وَلَا يَخْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. Okay, this is the last one here. And do not backbite. And this is really terrifying, frightening. And Allah subhanahu mentions here, أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Backbiting. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here removes the veils and shows us the true face of backbiting. Because all of these actions that we perform, they have a true face in Alamul Malakut, right? We say we have Alamul Mulk, where we see everyone, right? But there is the true face is Alamul Malakut. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes the curtains, right? The veils, and shows us what the backbiting is. The true face, okay? Which is يَأْكُلْ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ. Imagine someone, a brother, has died, and now someone will sit and eat the flesh of the dead. Who's gonna like this? Nobody, right? That's the true face of backbiting. We might take it simple, but it is, okay? That's how it is, yeah? And we have so many stories in the past that actually this was shown, okay? They saw that the flesh was stuck in their teeth. For those who are awliya, right? Awliya Allah. Because they can see the true face. And as I said, now the time is, I can't talk about, but that happened. That's the reality of backbiting. So it's not something we take it easy, okay? أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل أخيه ميتا واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم. So the path to taqwa, right, is what? Is by preventing all these 6 spiritual diseases. Remember, like we mentioned them, starting with لا يسخر قوم من قوم, do not mock, do not ridicule, okay? وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ أَحْسَنْتُمْ, right? Do not insult, do not look for shortcomings and defects, yeah? And then وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ, yeah? Do not use these nicknames, okay? Disrespectful names, okay? Even for fun, don't do this, okay? And then, stay away from negative assumptions. Don't spy and don't backbite. Really, if you try to watch this and apply it, as I said, now the relationship between the community members is going to be really healthy. Okay, you're going to enjoy the life, and this is something when you watch it, in your behavior, others also going to do it. So everyone going to feel comfortable. Okay, they're going to enjoy really the life. Because honestly, life by itself has a lot of difficulties, okay, and hardships. So we should not make it harder through these unnecessary enmities. Because this is what, in fact, going to bring, when we're going to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unpleased with us, okay? So for those who are, since our really target is to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's impossible. ما جعل الله لرجل من قلبين في جوفه. Okay? So we have to really be sincere to ourselves. What is it our objective in the life? There is one thing that is worth to live for, which is to get close to Allah, to be Khalifa of Allah. So we mentioned this, right? When we said Khalifa, representative means Khalifa in what? In the names and qualities. في أسماء الله وصفاته. Okay? So is it in line, like someone who make ghiba, for example, or su'al dhan? Is it in line with sifat and asma? Of course not, right? So we have to mimic the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever is of course possible for us as servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? This is our role, becomes Khalifa. And we see the most perfect of this Khilafah in the Prophet and his progeny. Right? This is the most perfect, in fact, manifestation of these Khilafah. Right? But for us, ولكن الإمام عليه السلام أنكم لا تقدرون على ذلك ولكن أعينوني بورع واجتهاد وعفة وسداد. It's not just to claim we are Shia. Okay? It's easy to say it. But how much we're going to study? إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا. It's not a joke. Okay? This is the noblest thing that we can be. Alhamdulillah, it's the greatest ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He made us followers of Ahl Bayt. But that needs, the actual shukr of this ni'mah is by applying their teachings. We can't just say that we cry for Imam Hussein, okay, we make azah. That's all good, okay? And definitely has a lot of benefits. But in fact, we have to look behind. In fact, behind the scenes, why Imam Hussein was murdered, okay, was martyred, and because of, he wanted to instill all these good, in fact, qualities, right? Good values. So if we are true followers and lovers of Imam, it's going to be through our actions, right? This is how, and through applying all these ayat, okay? So we don't read Quran just to get thawab, okay? That's the lowest. In fact, we want to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَجَاءَكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ نُورٌ وَكِتَابٌ مُبِينٌ. That's the light, okay? That's how we can get close, through these ayat of Quran al-Karim, okay? Then we can really, with these wings, as we mentioned always, that was the title for this series, with the two wings of Quran al-Karim and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. This is how we can, in fact, make this ascension, uruj toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not possible with one wing, because they are the true, like the two faces of the same coin, right? You say Quran al-Natiq or Quran al-Samit. They are the same thing. So the manifestation of these verses is in Ahlul Bayt, right? So we consider as our role models, and how we have to act upon their seerah and sunnah. And subhanAllah, when you look at the seerah of al-Ma'sumin, 14 Ma'sumin, right? Salawatullah alayhim ajma'in. Everyone got through different kind of experience, right? One of them became Khalifa, right? And you saw how he lived as a Khalifa, right? And how he was the symbol of justice. To the point that in the United Nations 2002, they declared Imam alayhi salam as the most just ruler in the history. Imagine, these are not Muslims, okay? The most just ruler, okay? Imam alayhi salam. Or this, we have, you see, it's not even among Shias, not among Muslims. He's a treasure to humanity, right? When these Christians, they have this true love toward Imam alayhi salam. Like, for example, Salam, right? There's a beautiful poem when he says, like, فَأَصْبَحَ مِنْ فَرْطِ حُبِّهِ عَلَوِيًّا. Like, gonna say, why this Christian shows that love? Because he said, no, this is not about being Shia or whatever. That's the true meaning of humanity. I can see it in the face of Ali ibn Abi Talib. فأصبح من فرطه علوية. Okay? جلجل الحق في المسيحي, right? فأصبح من فرطه علوية. Really beautiful. So alhamdulillah, we have all these treasures, right? These are gifts, bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. but that increases our responsibility, okay? Now we have to carry this message to those who are deprived from this, right? That's our responsibility to in fact, to guide others. And first of all, of course, to apply it to our life, to our family, and then try to carry this message of virtue. Okay, so يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل تعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you people and tribes that you may know one another. Not to say I am better than you, okay, because for example, I'm German, I'm Canadian, I'm Arab, I'm Farsi, and so on. No, this is beautiful. Like the ayah says, جعلنا إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل. Why we made you tribes and nations? لتعارفوا, to know each other, okay? To have this, to build this connection between each other, to enjoy, in fact, interacting with each other. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous or the most pious person. Okay, indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted. So in fact, the criterion that distinguish us in the eye of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not being, for example, male or female, being white or black, being from this ethnic group or that one, okay? Is the true thing is what? Taqwa, is the piety. And it's not for this dunya, and the akhirah, of course. In this dunya, all are equal, right? So imagine that people would act upon this. Would have been there World War I or II or all these like wars throughout the history. How many, like 52 millions were killed in the World War II. Why? Because the Germans, Hitler thought that the Germans are better than others, okay? And so on. Apply it to many other situations when, again, most of these wars, because of they thought they're better, they have to serve us, and so on, okay? But Quran clearly says, خلقنا من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. In fact, there are three factors, according to the ayat of Quran, that are, in fact, make people different in the eye of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First is taqwa, according to this ayah. The second is العلم. قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. العلم, right? So our second, in fact, mission is to acquire ilm and knowledge, okay? And so the first one is taqwa, and the third one is وَفَضَّلَ اللَّهُ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ عَلَى الْقَاعِدِينَ أَجْرًا. When you struggle in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ and everything, right? So these are the things that in fact make people different in the eye of Allah, not like how they look like, for example, what is their, let's say if they are wealthy or they're poor. No. All these things are really wahan, right? This does not really have any actual impact. So, قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا لكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم وإن تطيعوا الله ورسوله يلتكم من أعمالكم شيئا إن الله غفور رحيم. The Bedouins say we have believed, say you have not yet believed, but say instead we have accepted Islam, for faith has not yet entered your hearts. And if you obey Allah and His Messenger, you will not deprive you from He will not deprive you from your deeds of anything. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. We'll have to watch the time, so I'm going to move a little faster. Okay, that's another thing. So these Bedouins instead said, we believed, okay, and they kind of gave themselves the status of belief. Said, no, you have just entered Islam, okay? The faith has not really entered your hearts, okay? That's something going to take time, and through how much we are steadfast, okay? And because many people might say, well, we are believers, but through the tests and trials, they're going to, you see that they're going to get weak, okay? So it's important that, as I said, we consider it as a continuous journey, okay? That always we have to perfect it. We should never feel satisfied with the level of iman that we have, okay? Because always there is room to improve it, and we have to improve. That's in fact what make our journey and our mission beautiful. Because every day, man tasawa, we have in the hadith, man tasawa yawmah fahuwa maghboon. Okay, he's a loser. Whoever have 2 days exactly the same, right? وَمَنْ كَانَ يَوْمُهُ أَفْضَلَ مِنْ غَدِهِ فَهُوَ مَلْعُونٌ. He's wretched. If today is going to be better than tomorrow for me? No, this is the worst thing that might happen. Okay, so always we have to improve. I have to look. وَابْتَغُوا إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةِ. How I can get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? By what action? How I going to improve my belief? إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون قل أتعلمون الله بدينكم والله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض والله بكل شيء عليم. The believers are only the ones who have believed in Allah and His Messenger and then doubt not but strive with their properties and their lives in the cause of Allah. It is those who are truthful. Say, would you acquaint Allah with your religion while Allah knows whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, and Allah is knowing of all things, right? So again, here this ayah describes, in fact, who are the believers. So those who are believing in Allah and His messengers, okay, and they are not selective. I like this, so I'm going to do this, and this one, I don't like it, okay? Or remember at the very beginning of the surah, we talked about, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيِ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Okay, this was the cause for bid'ah. So, no, if I do it this way, for example, it's better. I think it's better. Who you are, you think that it's going to be. Allah said that, for example, pray this way or whatever, do the rituals this way. Okay, so تُعَلِّمُونَ اللَّهَ here it says وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان إن كنتم صادقين إن الله يعلم غيب السماوات والأرض والله بصير بما تعملون. They consider it a favor to you that they have accepted Islam. Okay, so how much ignorant someone should be that they think they are putting like favor on the Prophet, on Allah? No, بل الله يمن عليكم. It's a favor of Allah, right? Do not consider your Islam a favor to me. Rather, Allah has conferred favor upon you that He has guided you to the faith if you should be truthful, right? Indeed. So we have another ayah. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. Imagine that we did not get the message of Islam, how our life would look like, right? So all these beautiful things, these brotherhoods, these the joy of when we in fact pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we do the fasting and all these things that we have, okay, when we we understand the taste of life, okay, when we apply obedience to our life, that's the beautiful thing that the disbelievers, they never tasted. Okay, that's the real beauty of life. That's what makes life, in fact, can be tolerated. Yeah, we see all these oppressions, all these defects, all these shortcomings, but still we are happy because of this relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the greatest bounty, the greatest ni'mah. The Prophet is the biggest ni'mah, the Quran is the biggest ni'mah, Islam is the biggest, and so on, right? The brother believers are the biggest ni'mah. When you look at these blessed faces, these are really, this is what gathers us here, right? As in the, Aus and Khazraj, right? They used to fight against each other for so many years. But when Islam came, like when the Prophet came, without spending, right? لو أنفقت ما في الأرض ما ألفت. If you had to spend everything in the world, you would never be able to get their hearts close. But ولكن الله ألف بينهم. With this iman, with the ni'mah of iman, they became brothers. And they were ready to sacrifice. So imagine the Ansar, when the Muhajirin came, right? And they shared their properties with them, half. Okay, what is it really? What is the motivation behind this that gives them the courage, okay? And in fact, this intention, the good intention to share everything with their brothers that came from Mecca. That's all the beauty, the impact of Iman, right? So it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has in fact conferred this favor on us when He guided us, okay? We have always to be grateful and remember to be thankful, okay, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best way to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through acting upon the teachings that we have in the Quran and through the tradition of Ahl-Bayt himself. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ غَيْبَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah knows the unseen of the heavens and the earth, and Allah is seeing of what you do. Of course, now the concept of ilm al-ghayb, whatever, okay, some mention it belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we agree, but as in again in other ayat, we said in order to understand something, we can't focus on one single ayah. We have to try to get that term and then research it in all the ayat, right? As in Surah Al-Jinn, I guess, we have إِلَّا مَنْ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes gives his ilm of ghaib, right? The unseen to some of his chosen servants. فَإِنَّهُ يَسْلُكُ مِنْ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ رَصَدًا لِيَعْلَمَ قَدْ أَبْلَغُوا رِسَالَتَهُ. I'm not quite sure about the ayah. But it clearly says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the knowledge of unseen, of course partially, right? Not the full unseen, to some of his chosen servants, which are the prophets and imams and so on. Okay? And so Allah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ غَيْبَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ, and Allah is seeing of what you do. So really now, once again, we remind ourselves this surah was the surah of the chapter of manners, the chapter of etiquettes. Okay, how that first of all was how we build our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how we establish our relationship with the Prophet and his household, okay, and then across all the community members, right, with all these teachings. Beautiful, like we went through the ayat, okay. So I advise myself and you, dear brothers and sisters, to read this ayah now with this. Always try to really to dig deeper into that, to understand these and see how you can apply these. This is, in fact, through this we can get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and act upon and be a thankful servant. Abdan Shakura is through this, okay? Not say, well, beautiful, but then when it comes to implementing this, nothing, right? So really, if we value this, through believers that this is the way, this is the Sirat al-Mustaqim, then it's through the Quran al-Kareem that we have to act upon it. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He never departs us and never separates us from the Quran al-Kareem. He never separates us from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that makes our life Mahya Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad, and our death Mamata Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He always keep us steadfast in this path, especially nowadays with all these fitans that takes place, and they are coming like قطع الليل المظلم. The only thing that can in fact provide us with salvation and save us is by holding to these إني تارك فيكم الثقلين كتاب الله وعترتي أهل بيتي ما إن تمسكتم بهما فإنكم لن تضلوا بعدي وقد نبأني العليم الخبير أنهما لن يفترقا حتى يردا علي الحوض. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity. I apologize for any shortcomings. Definitely there were many of them. But inshallah, we always try to be sincere, inshallah, in this path. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسن الله إليكم جميعا. الله